I have faith, and my faith in God. I know like He's got me no matter what. And then I focus on today. You know what? The devil wants you to isolate yourself. So for me, it's I want to get close to the people that I love, the people that I want to do life with. So I always get closer to my wife if I'm feeling a certain way. If I'm feeling this way, I try to lean into her, be my strength in this storm. She's an amazing woman and absolute foundation of my marriage. And so to me, it's like I'll get right next to her, get closer to her, communicate with her, talk to her, and then all those feelings, all those doubts, whatever it is, just start going away.
And we are live for another episode of the Overcomers. Today, my guest is the great Steve Kuclo, realest dude that I know, the coolest dude that I know. Meet Steve Kuclo. He's a personal and business development monster, health and wellness coach. He's a pro athlete, an international speaker who built his passions into an empire. For over 20 years, Steve has steadily transformed his life and business through an impenetrable mindset and militaristic discipline, his self-discipline, and razor-sharp focus. Steve is a husband to Michelle and a father to 4 children. Steve started his pro athlete career in hockey, football, and was featured in the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2011. He earned his IFBB Pro Bodybuilding status and was crowned Mr. USA Over Men's Bodybuilding Champion. He won that 5 times. He worked his way to being a top 6 bodybuilder in the world at the Mr. Olympia and winning an Arnold Classic championship. He currently serves as a business advisor and lifestyle coach to multiple C-suite executives, CEOs, and small business owners as they navigate their way into the new economy. Steve has built an empire from his passions and developed multiple businesses related to fitness, nutrition, training, promotion, social media branding, and relationships. Steve's accomplishment in business and life all started with one thing: a winning mindset. The reason why I love Steve is because he leads by example. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Steve Kuclo. What's up, Steve?
Man, what an intro, Velko. Thank you so much, my friend.
This intro gives you enough justice. You know, the greatness that you demonstrate year and year, month after month, day after day with your personal example. It's truly inspiring. From the day I met you in person, and I've been following you since that moment. Every day you show up, and that's not easy. And I want to talk about adversity and challenges today because we both know that success doesn't come with. So, per tradition, we start with our first question. The first question is always, tell me about your grandfather and your grandmother from your dad's side and your grandparents from your mom's side. I believe that there's a ripple effect. I think that our genes come from our grandparents, and sometimes they start the foundation. And whether it's a curse or a blessing or a legacy, we learn from it and we try to continue their legacy. I can recognize that Kuclo, is that a Greek last name?
No, it's actually Ukrainian. So I got a mix of Ukrainian, Polish, and Italian in my genes.
Oh, good.
Dad's side's the Italian, Ukrainian. My mom's side is the Polish.
Polish?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about it the first time I met you, and I didn't learn my lesson. Yeah. Kukla means doll in Greek.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, but I'm sure you heard that before. So tell us about your grandparents. Tell us about where these great genes come from.
That's a great question. Never been asked that. And, like you said, I believe a lot is carried generationally down, especially from our grandparents. But I believe that we need to be in the generation, the lifetime we're in, we need to be the chain breakers to things that aren't serving us or aren't going to be fruitful in our life, that may be of curse, like you said, from our forefathers moving forward. So that's something I've been very aware of, very mind opening about, and trying to really live my life by design and not by default, which a lot of us live by default. My grandparents are very blue collar. Like both my grandfathers served the military. My dad's side was in the Navy. My mom's side was in the Army. My grandfather, my dad's side, was an automotive engineer, a hardworking guy, very intelligent, athletic. Like, that was just a family guy, like, just amazing. I saw a way, like, he wanted his family raised, and I saw the way he loved my grandmother, and as a young child, seeing those things definitely resonated with me into today, of how I want to be as a father, how I want to be as a family man, and how I want to be as a husband. My mom's side, my grandfather was a steel worker, just an everyday badass. He was a monster guy, 300 pounds, never touched a weight, monster hands, huge calves. Like, people ask me, where do I get my size from? It's definitely genetically passed down. My mom's side was very large. My dad's side was the athletic, streamlined look. So the blend of those two really brought it together to the physique I have. I owe a lot to that, but an amazing, a great family for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I knew it that it's passed on through generations. He said he didn't touch any weights, so it was all hard work, huh?
Yeah, he was like I said, a steel worker. So, he was just a massive guy, lifting a lot of material. And I mean, back in the days, there wasn't all the machinery like it is today, and so automated. So, he was just a very strong man, it just from hard labor work, and then those genes definitely passed down. About the strength I have, I know where I got it from. And I remember when he died when I was like about 12 or 13 years old. But I remember, like, his hand was so big. I remember holding his hand in his last years. I'd go and, like, sit next to him, and his hand would just swallow my whole hand. And I got the same traits. My hands grew into what his were.
Nice. I'm sure he's looking from heaven now, and he's like, my boy. And militaristic self-discipline, that's the key to your success. Comes from your dad's dad.
Both of them, mom's dad, dad's dad, they both were very disciplined. They worked very hard in life. Like, were not excuse makers. So, and to me, discipline is superior to any kind of motivation that you need. Motivation is kind of a temporary come and go thing. But if you're disciplined enough to do your everyday, to be consistent with what you're doing every day and keep moving forward, that's how results happen. That's how good things happen.
Yeah, I agree. Tell me about your parents. What profession were they in? What was their?
They were very blue collar family growing up. They live a simple life, Midwest family. My dad has been a chef for his whole life since he was 16. It's been over 50 years working in a kitchen. My mom's a hairdresser. She's I think hairdressers are part therapist and psychologist as well. They're always talking to people and hearing their problems. So she's a amazing heart and spirit. And they're in their 60s now, but they both live their life like they're in their 20s. They have a great social life, great, they're amazing family people, great friends to have, very generous people. So, a lot of that, I've absorbed through my life, and they've supported me heavily through a lot of my career in sports, which led into a lot of the things I've done, the success in bodybuilding, which also led in success in the business, and so on and so forth.
Cool. Share with me, what is your first conscious moment? What do you remember as, like, first core memory when you realized you were alive? You were,
oh man,
in this world.
That's a good one. I really have to, like, kind of sit back and think. A lot of people, I think, would refer to think of like trauma and stuff like that, but anytime I think of my youth, I think of, like, a lot of the good times, like the holidays and family times. I immediately think of something. I always think of my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My parents worked, so they watched me, kind of somewhat raised me. So it was, and then holidays there. My grandma loved to cook. She loved cookies and baking and everything. So it was always food oriented and family and a lot of gatherings. So that's probably the the conscious memory that comes to my mind the quickest.
Yeah. Well, take me through the teenage years. What were you into? Were you into sports or different music? How did?
Yeah. Sports was my jam. I loved competitive sports. I was always involved in something growing up. My dad was super athletic, so he was like, he could have probably went pro in probably baseball. He was an amazing pitcher,
Mm,
but I think he had a work injury that hindered his shoulder. He hurt himself, and then it just kind of fell apart. So he always had hopes. Hey, my son will be a pro athlete someday, and he encouraged that. My parents supported that. So yeah, I was very heavily in the sports. I played high level travel hockey. That was probably the sport I excelled the most in. I played high school football, but like you mentioned in the intro, I've with my hockey, I won a national tournament. I was a national champion, a state champion multiple times, and then an international champion. Which that tournament, it was called the Silver Stick. It allowed you to get you got your stick, a silver stick every year. The winner gets their names put on the stick and put in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it was a pretty cool achievement to have as a youth. So heavily into sports, and that competition, that drive in you, that always just strive and always win, the winning mindset, that kind of started with the sports. And then when I got into bodybuilding is very much a one-man sport. And in my late teens, 18, 19, when I got into bodybuilding, and I loved working out. I loved getting results. I loved seeing, you get a pump and you're like, man, my arm's getting bigger. My shirts are getting tighter. Girls are looking at you a little more. You're like, okay, a little chest sticking out. So, with that led into my success in the bodybuilding. A lot of people say you got something, and it was just really fun. Every door that opened in my life, I really, went through and tried to live it out, and not, if a door shut, like, it wasn't meant to be.
right.
But to me, if a door was open, if there was the right alignments there, if God was making that, like pushing me, saying, go son, like I was all in, and everyththing I've done, and anything I've went all in on, I've had success in.
The parents have a lot to do with that. Encouragement,
Yeah.
the discipline. When you're down on yourself, for them to say you got this, it's such a big deal. Supporting your kids. I didn't know anything about the hockey career. I thought that you started lifting weights at 4, and that
I always, what drove me to weights and training was I always wanted to be the biggest, fastest, strongest guy on every field or ice or whatever arena I was in. I wanted to be like just the ultimate, like, shit, that I don't want to mess with that guy because he's,
Right.
that guy knocked me on my ass. So I always had that, like, want to be and I knew that I had to work on myself. I knew that it didn't come naturally. It just doesn't happen. I have to work to be the biggest. I have to go to the gym, and after practices, I remember taking myself and either walking or eventually getting my license to be able to drive to the gym at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I would go work out after my practices and stuff. And I just loved it. It was a true passion of mine. And then that passion turned into what got to be a career. And that's where I've truly been blessed to do what I love for my career.
Yeah. Well, hockey is a brutal sport.
Yes.
Fighting is allowed.
That's right.
I'm glad you have your full set of teeth.
Yeah.
And football is pretty brutal as well. It could be. Rugby is even more brutal. If you see these guys from South Africa and New Zealand, they have this new technique now. They lift up the whole guy. Like, what kind of strength is that? Have you seen what they do? Like, to catch the ball
It's crazy.
over his shoulders. So, how did you transition from all these sports? Was it like you said, like a closed door? It wasn't emotional. It didn't feel like, oh man, my career as a hockey player is over. Do you remember any emotions in those transitions, or?
I do. I remember there was a few guys that I played with, 2 guys on my team, 1 guy in my league, and then other guys I played against in my youth that end up going to the NHL. I vividly remember them that, and I know I probably could have went and played as well. But at the time, I was the player, the more physical player, the guy that wanted to, be the enforcer, the big hitter, the fighter. And the sport was going in the direction of more of the skill player, the guys that wanted to score goals, and the finesse type players. And I was good, but I was more of the, I'm going to take this guy's head off, or I'm going to protect my star player kind of thing. So, there was, I seen that they weren't like going after those kind of players as much. And it's kind of funny. There's kind of a rejuvenation of those players. More of those guys are kind of coming in the league because they're exciting. They got big hits. They got, hard shots. They do things that, fight. I mean, everybody loves to watch a hockey fight. And
Yeah.
so it just that I felt that it wasn't, I didn't feel it like that was my calling. And then, you know what, I had some people encouraging me at the gym and in my, I guess, friends that were like, you're getting a lot of attention in the gym, and you should go check out some bodybuilding shows. And you know what, maybe go. So I went to a few bodybuilding shows. I'm like, man, totally different culture, totally different, environment. And I ended up I was like, you know what, I'll commit to one. I'll do one. I always thought I had to be like a Mr. Olympia to get on stage, but no matter what it is in life, there's always a starting point.
Right.
So I was a teenager. I was 18. I got together my first coach and my training partner, and then put together a program. And then sure enough, like, I had success. I won the teenage division. I placed high in the men's class as a teenager. So everybody's like, man, this kid's good. He's got a lot of potential, but potential is only so good as how far you want to take it. So, I was all in, and I was like, let's do this. And from there, here 20 years later, been one of the top guys in the world, 5 big championships, Mr. USA title. So a lot of great things came of it.
People know you, Steve. Like I know a bunch of bodybuilding guys, and every time I mention your name, only good things about you. Like I remember one of your last competition, there was a guy that was they call him the mutant or something like that. You came just a little short of him, but he's like really abusing all these chemicals and stuff. Like the whole industry knows about him.
Yeah.
And you were so gracious, and I remember just the interaction with him, how respectful you are. But everybody was like, Steve deserved that first place. Like everybody I talked to was like, he deserved.
Man, that's awesome.
So much more natural. And tell me about moments of adversity. Do you remember, before we go there, do you remember these hockey wars between USA and USSR?
Oh yeah.
They were like, it was more than hockey.
It was.
It was so brutal. Like the games on the Olympic Games, I don't remember. That was probably in the 90s or early 90s. It was so brutal. But hockey was a big thing, especially in Chicago when the Blackhawks had this run of few years when they were winning Stanley Cups. How come there's no one like Wayne Gretzky anymore? Like, how come no one can like take off?
I think the quality of players in all the sports, hockey, football, basketball, there's so many all-stars, like, the understanding, the training, the knowledge, and it goes even in bodybuilding. Like there's not one or two guys that just have this exceptional genetic gift. There's a lot of gifted guys that put in a lot of hard work and, work their butt off every day, practice hard, and they know, hey, I know how to take even a average guy and make him great if he follows this plan with, the way he trains, the way he eats, the way they can do things. Now, the understanding more depth, almost the science of a sport, is much more knowledgeable. So I think the quality of all the players, like if you take an Ovechkin and put him back in Gretzky day, he'd probably be superior to Gretzky. You put somebody like a McDavid who is on the Oilers, I think that guy would probably be, he's got the potential to be one of the best players ever, if not the best player ever. So you see like these ultra skilled, talented guys, but there's a ton of them in the league. There's not just one Wayne Gretzky or one Gordie Howe or one,
right?
So there's a lot of them now. So it's a little bit more even of a playing field. Where back in the day, one or two guys, and they just ran circles around everybody.
I guess the informational age kind of opened the doors to greatness.
Correct.
And more people implemented some of the things that the great people do, and which is a good thing for sports. Makes it more competitive, more entertaining. Tell me about the bodybuilding. Who was your favorite bodybuilder? I know that Arnold, a lot of people love Arnold, but who was the guy that you were like, that was on your wall?
The guy that was on my wall, the guy I probably admired and modeled my career after the most, would probably Jay Cutler. Jay was multifaceted. He wasn't like just the bodybuilder, the guy that just competed. He was, he looked at bodybuilding like a business, and he looked at it like, hey, he, you know, understanding branding of himself and how to, you know, monetize himself and how to really take what he's done on stage and capitalize it on off the stage. So not only to win titles and was he an amazing champion, but he's also was a pioneer in the business side of things. So that's where I kind of admired that business acumen he had. And I was like, you know what, I want to apply what I've done and leverage that for the business side of things. And that's really everything. A majority of the stuff that I've done in my life, business wise, have been oriented around fitness, with my own bodybuilding show and the promotion side, with or apparel, fitness apparel, or you know, health and wellness coaching, that kind of stuff. Like it's always been around that, but because of my success on stage, I'm able to leverage that into the businesses that I've gone as well. So, and I would say Jay's been probably the most inspirational for me on that front.
He's also a giver. He shares a lot of tips, and he's got education about bodybuilding. Like, he's a giver. He's not one of
Yeah,
those guys that I like. Jay Cutler. He's massive too. He's a pretty big
he
guy.
is. See, very.
I remember as a kid, I really liked Dorian Yates, and he's a smaller dude when you see him in person. What do you think about Arnold?
I think, I mean, he definitely one of the guys that put bodybuilding on the map, and you always got to give props to Arnold for that. You know, I mean, he lived the American dream. I mean, you look at a guy that came over, you know, pursued bodybuilding. That was like his avenue, had a huge success in it, and then he leveraged that, went on to movies, politics, all that kind of stuff. Now, do I agree with him on all the things he says in his politics? No, but I think as a man that's a promoter, as a businessman, and what he's done in his life, I think, you know, my hat's off to him. Absolutely.
He's got some flaws in the character. He's got like a whatever it takes attitude.
Yeah.
You know, I need
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
do this.
And there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people like that, you know, and if we're, you know, they could be bought with money. Hey, I'll pay you to say you do this or take this. And that's not me. I've never been the guy that, you know, I've been very loyal to, you know, one company I've been with for 7 years in the supplement side when I competed. And, you know, I wasn't hopping over here and saying, hey, you know, I drink this water and that's because I put on a lot of muscle. Like that was never me. You know, I feel I was lying to people and trying to mislead them. And that's it's kind of a fraud.
Right.
You see that a lot with guys claiming to be natural nowadays. Oh, I'm natty, or I'm this, you know, or not admitting, like, you know, just admit, and people will leave you alone and they're not going to make a point of it. Like, you know what, you're frauding, you're lying to fans and customers of yours, like the Liver King and all those guys. Like, you know what, like why? And obviously it's backfired on all of them too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a big problem. One of the Mr. Olympia guys recently died. A younger dude. I forgot his name, but he died from a heart attack or something like that. And there's these chemicals are a big part of the sport. And most young dudes that are 14, 15, they think now that it's inevitable. You must be on this stuff in order to be competitive. If you want to be on Mr. Olympia, you gotta go into the cycles. So I actually I have a friend of mine who's a coach. He's a bodybuilding coach, and he also helps them with this stuff that they take. And he sees a lot of people that have issues with you know, all kinds of issues, not just their heart, but being able to have kids and things like that. And I'm like, you need to come out with this, make it public, expose the industry, and really talk about cycles of cleaning after you take this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and going back to, you know, prepare for the competition, yeah, but then go into 3 months of detox, you know, or something like that, so people can have a chance at life, be father and things like that. I'm like, that's your brand, that's who you need to be.
That's your true purpose and calling in life.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's your true purpose in calling. Expose the industry. You know, this is one of the things how you build a powerful brand. You need to have an enemy. What do you stand for? What do you stand against? You know, who's the enemy here?
Yeah, yeah, you can't be liked by everybody, and I've learned that in the recent, years of my life. Like I'm always the guy that always trying to please everybody and be the likable guy, and not that I'm not, but I'm saying like, yeah, when you take a stand about whether it's a principle or something that holds dear as a value to you, like you gotta, there's no shame in taking a stance and saying no, this isn't right if something's being done that's harmful or something that is being, people are being misled or whatever it is, and saying, no, like, that's not what I stand for, not what I believe in.
I mean, people are dying from this stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors in that for sure. I think there with anything that's abused is not good. Anything that's overused is not good, and with substances there is abuse, there's the addiction side of it, and you say, well, how can you be addicted to steroids? It's more of a mental thing. Then it's like, you get used to want to look a certain way, and if you don't take those, it's hard for you to look this way. So there's that addiction, but it's more of a mind game that ends up being played with these people. And then so that's where that addiction part comes in. But you have to understand, like, yes, there's the side effect of it. Like if you want to be fertile and be able to have kids down the road, there's ways to do it. And there's ways that you could really
Right.
harm yourself, or you could do things right and you could still have that opportunity to do later down the road. If and then there's a lot of the new stuff that's come out with the evidence showing how people that have gotten recently have, I'll just say the vaccine, how that has affected people that have enhanced blood from anabolics. There's horrible side effects from the combination of those two. And if and it's really not being talked about publicly. I've said a few things about it, but at the same time, it's like you got to caution yourself if you've gone the vaccine route, and then if you've are taking PEDs or anabolics. Those two are a deadly combination. They really are, because you've altered your blood with anabolics, and now you're altering your blood with a vaccine. The combo of those two have I think taken a lot of lives in our industry in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so that could be the reason, and that could be, you know, something that people don't talk about it, the combination of those two.
Yeah.
Man, this vaccine, I'm so glad I couldn't take it. I was like, they will have to kill me too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that that your eyes were open and you didn't want to be a guinea pig to the madness.
Oh no, I've been in business my whole life, and I like every time when they ask me to take responsibility to sign an agreement, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna take the responsibility and it's not my idea, I'm out.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and so many athletes, not just in bodybuilding, so many athletes just dropped, boom, because they're also taking legal supplements that are enhancing their lung and lungs and just different parts of their body and muscles and things like that. And like you said, the combination is a dynamite. It doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't work well. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the bodybuilding world? The biggest moments of adversity, especially. I know that some bodybuilders, like to the average man, you're like, wow, dude, you're so strong. But some bodybuilders can get into, and this part of the addiction, maybe you're talking about, like perfectionism, like, oh, this is not the way I want it. It's already great to the average man, but like, no, it must be this form. It must be this size.
Yeah. No,
You-
it's true. I mean, you have genetic limitations, and bodybuilding is all about pushing your genetic limitations past what your set points are. Does your body want to be 300 pounds, in off season? And I mean, I've been on stage at 285. Does my body want to be that big? No, it doesn't. So you're forcing yourself, you're forcing your body to grow way beyond what it wants to grow. My body probably wants to be in the low 200s if I wasn't to work out very much and just kind of be a normal person, which I don't want to be normal. But I think I could probably hold 240, 250 really without trying that hard. I mean, I hold 270 pretty easy right now. I train 5 days a week. I love the lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, but if there's like I said, there's always right and wrong ways to do things, and I think if anything that's going to be abused is not good. That's like you
Yeah,
said, the addiction side of it. Guys they chase this this look. And with bodybuilding, you do have to try to be your own worst critic. Like you have to be like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I got to improve this. And so it's a constant self-improvement sport. But at the same time, like you have to understand there's only so many things you can do. Like if somebody's like, oh, you got to work on your bicep peak, that's great, but maybe genetically I don't have a huge peak to work on. Like it's just not in the cards for me. So guys then revert to doing other things. They'll do site injections and put oil in there and try to make it more of a peak. So there's a lot of things that guys start doing that, you're risking a lot to get a little reward at the end of the day.
What are some things that you know that are not safe and you don't recommend to young viewers who are watching right now, young guys that want to get into bodybuilding and want to win Mr. Olympia or whatever? Something that you would say, do not touch this stuff, or no matter what people tell you.
I think one, there's so much bad information out there. So
Right.
I would say be cautious of the information that you're absorbing, reading, getting it, whatever source you're getting it from. Research yourself, research your sources. But you hear a lot of guys using just very extreme amounts of things. And that's number one. Again, like I said earlier, anything extreme is not good. Anything with crazy excess amounts, there's going to be detrimental side effects down the road. So that's my first caution with guys, because guys are like, well, more is better. That's the old analogy with bodybuilding. Like, if I got to get bigger, I got to eat more, got to train more, got to take more drugs, whatever it is. So they think the more is better with things, and that's not always the case. So, and then the other thing too, like I just mentioned earlier, with site enhancement and guys doing, putting oil in there, you're putting a foreign substance in your body that really cannot be filtered by your kidneys. And there's all these problems that end up having. It's like I always use the analogy of like putting oil in your gas tank. Like your car's not gonna work if you put oil in your gas tank. So you got people that are putting this oil or substance into a muscle to try to make it expand or make it look bigger, when in essence, like it's horrible for your body. A lot of these guys have a lot of problems with kidney issues, and they get very sick because of it. So don't quick fix in anything is not worth it. The get rich quick schemes, they usually don't work out good.
Right.
And the get big biceps by injecting this oil in there and you have a weird looking bicep, like it's not worth it. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of health effects that come with that.
That's why I want to take this opportunity to just educate the younger dudes, the teenagers, and the guys in their early 20s, because that's when we usually make the stupid decisions.
Right. Yeah. Because you feel invincible. You feel like, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm okay, whatever. And then, down the road, you may do something where you're like, man, I've made myself, I sterile. I can't have kids, or I've got kidney problems, or I've got heart problems, or I got, you've got to be on some kind of medication the rest of your life because you abuse something. So yes, we're very much an instant gratification society we live in. So I encourage each and every one to, stop for a second, think about, hey, in 20 years, what do I see myself, or what is this going to serve me in 20 years if I do this? Likely it's not.
Yeah. And the competitive mindset is dangerous, because like you said, every man has a different gift, different highlights. Maybe to some it's biceps, some people have massive back. So what do you think is your special? What's one thing that you
I
can
was very balanced as a physique. Like I really had no excessive strong points and I really had no crazy weak points. So to me, my body was very, like a lot of guys will have a very strong body. He's got big arms, you got big quads, but I was always, my body flowed really well. And that's what I felt was my strong point. And I didn't want to have anything overpowering or any lagging body parts, but people always knew me. I had massive calves. Always have people know me as big calves, and that genetically I have big calves. But
me too.
Yeah,
From soccer, I show it to my wife. I'm check out these calves.
Yeah, it's probably from hockey for me. And my mom's got big calves. My grandfather had big calves, so that side
I have problem wearing skinny jeans and skinny
doesn't
shorts.
work. Yeah,
I can't take them off with my calves.
Nope.
What's in the zone for you? What is a specific hobby that you have right now that it's kind of like your meditation without meditation, something that turns off, shuts the world down, and you can just do it for a couple hours, and it really is recharging for you?
It's always been like a handful of things. Even when I'm not competing, getting in the gym is always a time for me where I could, shut off and a lot of time getting in the gym was business for me because, okay, I'm getting ready for a show. And it's, what, that's what I do in the gym is predicated on how I look on stage, determine how much money I make, in the show based on me winning or whatever place I get. But so I love that. That's always been if I don't train, I start getting like this built up, energy. And I'm like, I got to go work out. I got to do something. So that's always just that inside of me. And then I, a couple of things. I love spending time with my wife. Like anytime I could just kind of disconnect, shut my phone off and just spend time with her. That's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And I love cars. I love like race cars and getting together with my car buddies and like, it's a different world. It's like,
Speed.
it's speed. It's not talking bodybuilding and weights. So, and I love music too. I love going to concerts. It's another thing. So I got a lot of friends in that arena as well in the music world. So
What would you consider as your first love? Is it a girl? Is it a sport? What's your first love?
I'd say my wife's number one on that for sure. But
That's the politically correct answer.
I would, I think the way when I'm understanding it more and more, I think, taking care of myself and self-love is so important that I think a lot of people neglect that. They don't love themselves. They are doing things that aren't serving them, and they're that are detrimental to their health or whatever it is. If you really take care of yourself and have love for yourself, you're able to really be the best version of yourself, which will, in essence, be the best gift you can give to somebody that you love or something you love to do.
Yeah.
And that's taking care of yourself, being healthy, doing all the things that are going to, feed you. And if you fill your cup more or less, and then when you're filled, you could fill other cups.
Yeah, this is so important, Steve, because you could also be your best coach to yourself. I remember I had a huge transformation. I was in sales and had a very unhealthy lifestyle, and I hired a personal trainer, and he really helped me out. I trained with him for a year, and one day he didn't show up. He just had an emergency, and I was doing these difficult exercises he made me do, and his voice was in my head, and I did so much better. Like I lifted more and I stayed for more reps, and I was like, "You're fired." So I think I graduated. I graduated to the point where, all right, I can really motivate myself. I can really kick my own ass right now.
Yeah.
And I needed accountability in the beginning. I needed somebody to tell me, "Come on, you can do it." I even gave him permission to call me, names if I don't do it. But when he didn't show up after a year, I did this to myself. And is that how you are at the gym? Like you have a special relationship with yourself? Like, all right, we're gonna do the best workout we ever had here. And you motivate yourself. The inner voice is actually you.
Very much so. Very much so. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a very self-motivated person. So I don't need an external motivation a lot of times. Yeah, when I'm getting ready for a competition, knowing like there's that I got to go against this guy, or I got thought of winning that prize because that's the monetary win on that. But one of the gifts I think that you're able to really harness in bodybuilding and working out is taking a lot of this built up aggression or energy and able to like harness it and apply it during a set. Because I could like literally flip a switch and say, all right, like get focused. I could have 500 pounds on a bar, get underneath it, squat it. And then when I'm done, I could start laughing and joking with the guys in my, in the gym. But it's not like I'm walking around all pissed off. I'm able to kind of harness that energy. And that's kind of a skill and an art at the same time to be able to do that.
Have you ever thought about becoming a power lifter instead of a bodybuilder?
I've had that. I've always been very strong, and I've been one of the stronger bodybuilders. But powerlifting never really like appealed to me. I just see the guys, the injuries that come with lifting crazy, and a lot of torn pecs and busted backs and knees and hips. So I mean, not that bodybuilding's that much better, but I like the aspect of the challenge of bodybuilding a little bit more.
you'd rather lift 250 pounds 20 times than 1,000 pounds one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you share with me like a specific moments of challenges, the biggest moments of adversity in your personal life up until this point?
Some adversity in life until this point.
Like, how would you rate the top three most challenging moments, things that you had to face, and it was pretty scary, but here you are sitting in
Yeah.
front of me.
No, it's true. Absolutely. I mean, I spent 10 years as a firefighter paramedic in the city of Dallas. I worked in one of the busiest stations, and that taught me a lot about stress management, about taking myself to extremes on energy, like lack of sleep, sleep deprivation, but being able to perform under high levels of stress. And I love, you have your name, the professional problem solver. The number one thing you have to do in firefighting and being a paramedic is solve people's problems. And, within seconds, when you come up on a scene and somebody's there and they're hurt, or, you got to solve this problem that they have. That's why they're calling you. They got a problem. You have to be the problem solver.
Yeah.
So that was something that taught me a lot of lessons in life. And, yes, you face adversity every day of, you risk your life for this job. You're helping people. So that was one of the, I think, big character builders in my life. When I was young, I moved out at a very young age, at the age of 21. I moved from home, left. I grew up in Michigan, came to Texas, and just made the move. And I think a lot of people are afraid to make decisions or to do things in life in fear of what's going to happen or something. Most times when people fear stuff, most of the time it never even happens. It's your own thought and subconscious that's lying to you and putting these voices in your head, and it's not going to work, it's going to fail, or you're going to get hurt. And usually nothing ever happens. So, I always encourage people I coach and I talk to is, not to let fear run you, but, if you have a clear idea of what you want to do, just take action on it. Keep moving forward in life. There's been a lot of adversity through relationship and divorce and competing, not placing where you wanted to place. And, there was, sometimes the difference in a placing, like the show you mentioned with me and Nick Walker had competed, there was a close to $100,000 difference in one place. So, I just lost $100,000. Like most people would look at that like that's a crazy amount of money. And yeah, that's gonna, that could absolutely ruin somebody, make them depressed, whatever it is. But you know what? I always take a step back. I'm grateful for what I did do and what I accomplished, and I just keep moving forward. I think.
Yeah, it was obvious that you won. Everybody, and the way you handled it was so graciously. I was like, I love this guy because of just the way how like a gentleman, like the bigger man, which you are,
Thank you.
in every aspect of the word. And I'm sure time will show, and time will give its own justice.
Yeah, you're right. Very true.
And I think like your foundation for winning mindset, your foundation from your grandparents and your parents prepared you to not be so focused on the BS. And I feel what you said, take action, because we get caught in these fears when we sit down in indecision moments, in action, when we're thinking about stuff. We can't take action, but when we're taking action, we can still think about stuff. So thinking is not bad, but do it while you're doing something versus thinking without taking action.
Correct.
So thanks for sharing that. What about in your professional life? What are some specific examples of big challenges in business?
Well, with anytime starting a new business, I think more even in the transition of my careers, like coming toward the end of my bodybuilding career of getting on stage and competing. Not saying that I'm not going to still train and be heavily involved in the industry, but for me, with having my son coming up here in the next week or two, my wife's about to give birth, and so many new things, new chapters opening up in life. So there's a lot of adversity that comes with that. And that's, a lot of the unknowns, like, okay, there's security and things that are familiar and that you're used to. Yes. So when you start something new, like a new business, getting into the coaching and personal development space for myself, yeah, there's always the starting point. Like we all want to make $1 million the first week we open business, but that's not always how it works. So it's like, okay, we got to just start planting seeds and just start watering them and start, letting, and then we'll reap harvest when that fruit will come if we just keep watering them and stay consistent with it and start nurturing all those things that we're doing. So that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to business adversity for me is, I feel like I have the mental, the thought process of that I could do anything, and then even when something's hard, I have faith, and my faith in God. I know like he's got me no matter what. And then I focus on today. Like I'm not anxious about thinking about tomorrow or the next month or year from now of like, okay, what if, there you go, of like the fear of the what ifs. And most of the time those what ifs never happen. But for me, it's like, okay, what can I control right now? What are my controllables or what are my uncontrollables? My uncontrollables I'm not going to worry about. But the things I can control and the things I can take action on, I'm going to do and take action on those. And I know based on the confidence in myself and my thought process and my alignments in my life and the people I have as resources that I can call on, that whatever I do, I'm going to have success.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited for you. My boy is almost 3 months old. It's like the best thing ever.
Well, I'll be around the same age. That's great.
Oh yeah, it's right now when I make eye contact with him, he smiles and
He knows dad, huh?
oh yeah, it's I can't wait. I mean, I'm so excited for him to start showing him things around, age appropriate. So I'm really excited for you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Tell me, how important is God? I feel true confidence comes from God.
Yeah. My pastor calls it Godfidence,
God,
and
yeah.
for me, I've really in the last probably 10 years of my life, if not no more, even a little bit more than that, probably last 15 years, I've really dug into my relationship with God, and I would say that has been the foundation that has got me through all the hard times and storms of my life. Because the enemy is going to be there lying to you and telling you all these things, and you're going to hear these lies, and majority of that is just fear, and it's the enemy just trying to lie to you. And then anytime you go up in life, they say new level, new devil. The more you become an influence in this world, there's going to be another influence coming at you, trying to attack you and try to hinder what you're doing, especially if you're a light, especially if you're doing big things in this world. So for me, my relationship with God has been huge, and getting fellowship around a lot of like-minded people. I plugged in. I got an amazing church here in Frisco, Texas. I go to, and there's a men's community that it's incredible. It's called Mighty Men. There's 400 men that meet every Saturday morning, and that kind of community, that kind of brotherhood of like-minded and strong men. And I think the way faith teaches you how to be a husband, faith teaches you how to be a friend and a servant, and how to really serve people, and learn how to love people, truly understanding love. Life takes on a whole new purpose, whole new meaning, and a whole new value.
Yeah. Steve Weatherford is in Frisco, right?
Steve Weatherford's a very good friend of mine, and we actually go to the same church and in the same group.
Man, yeah, he's crazy about Jesus. When I heard his story and when I met him, I was like, wow, he really helped me out with just understanding who God is and overcoming some of my moments in my life. He's a great dude.
Yes, absolutely.
What are some strategies or like coping mechanisms on how to kick the devil's ass, how to remove him from your mind? Because we have authority over him, but sometimes we let him in there for too long. So what are some practical things that you do to be like, yeah, nice try, buddy, get out?
A lot of that comes with maturity, because it's not being overly emotional with things, and then taking some time to let the smoke clear before you react. In the recent, I could say this year, launching my upgraded human mastermind and having my first live event with that, there was a lot of fear that came with it, because there was a lot of investment in time, in money, in resources. Excuse me. The enemy just kept coming at me saying, nobody wants to be there. It's going to fail. It's not, like all these things I'm hearing, and that's just the enemy's voice trying to, put these little seeds in. So to me, when I'm hearing that, when that noise is chirping at me, or I'm hearing that negativity, I lean in even more, because I know that I'm going in the right direction. Because he wouldn't be coming at me if I'm kind of in his lane and doing the things that kind of the way he would want. So
He's a
that's why, yeah, exactly. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy everything I'm doing. So for me, if I'm doing something and I'm hearing those voices, that means I'm on the right track. And I leaned in even more. I went even, as I was already all in, but I'm like, if there's anything left on my back, I'm really all in on this because, it's that fear it's the fear of failure is there. The fear of, I'm in a lot of different coaching groups, and myself, I fear this, the old imposter syndrome, where you feel like, the feel of worthiness or worthlessness, is there. And that's all a lie. We're all worthy. So when I hear those voices, I really lean in the most, and then now there's times where, if something, because the enemy will try to even use people close to you that, they may to say something that tries to rattle you or something like that. Or sometimes when I feel like something's going on where I feel like I need my space, sometimes I feel like, the devil wants you to isolate yourself. So for me, I want to get close to the people that I love, people that I want to do life with. So I always get closer to my wife if I'm feeling a certain way. If I'm feeling this way, I try to lean into her, be my strength in the storm, because she's an amazing, amazing woman and absolute foundation of my marriage. And so to me, it's like I'll get right next to her, get closer to her, communicate with her, talk to her, and then all those feelings, all those doubts, whatever it is, just start going away.
That's such a good word, brother. This is amazing perspective to have, because as a thief, he won't try to rob you if he doesn't know you got something. So this is a good perspective. And by the way, just a personal observation: when we met, you were still with the previous lady, and I just saw such a huge. You've always been a positive guy, but I just saw such a spark with your new love, with your true love.
Thank you.
And it's like you are rejuvenated, ready, fresh for your next chapter of your life. And
thank you.
And I'm so happy for you. And God is blessing you with this baby.
Yes.
They're gonna be friends with my son.
I know, absolutely. He'll take over your podcast, and then he can be your.
No, this is the biggest blessing, being fathers, especially in a fatherless world where fathers are being attacked so hard. And I just made a post the other day. Anyone could be a sperm donor, but to be a good father, you need to know the father.
Correct.
The main father. So I'm so glad that you're in fellowship and you're going to be a great father to your little boy. He's so fortunate to be your son. Did you guys come up with a name yet, or I know maybe you don't?
I don't know if I think my wife's right over here. Babe, can I say the name publicly yet of our baby? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We're gonna have another. I got to carry this. So little background. Both my grandfathers were named Steve. My dad's name is Steve. I'm a Steve. So we're gonna carry another Steven into this world.
Wow.
Except he's gonna have a different middle name. I'm Stephen Alex. He's gonna be Stephen Gabriel. So he'll probably be known more as Gabriel than anything.
That's awesome. The people in your family are like, hello, of course. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to make tough decision under pressure, under a lot of pressure, like you didn't have too much time? And how did you handle it? And what came out of it? What was the outcome of that experience?
I would say,
or what did you learn from that?
Yeah, being, like I said, being a firefighter, there was constant life and death situations where you have to, make a decision whether you're going to do a certain procedure or give, certain medication or whatever it is. Like you're having to solve problems immediately, or the way I could get one example was one of the first fires I ever made on working on the fire department. I remember it was this kind of old abandoned apartment complex. And there was a lot of squatters there, people, and then it ended up catching fire. And those things are like matchboxes; they just go up. And but you're not sure if anybody's there. There's a bunch of vacancy, and so there might be somebody still in there. So you got to do kind of a search and rescue. So I follow my lieutenant up the stairs to the second floor, and there's just tons of smoke, and smoke hits me, and then it took us all to our knees because it was so strong. Like that, smoke inhalation is horrible.
Yeah.
So So we all put our masks on. We start searching all the rooms, and then all of a sudden we start hearing the Mayday calls, Mayday, Mayday. Get out, get out, get out. It's about to collapse. So here we are, like, barely could see anything in searching this apartment, and we found the exit, and then literally it was probably 2 feet over from where I was, collapsed, and that whole side of the building just went down. If I was just 2 feet over, I would have probably not be here today to talk about this and tell this story, because most collapses are just they're horrible, they're fatal. So like that was one of those split decisions. Like, do you still go? You're in there in the heat of the moment. You just feel like they want to be this hero. But I remember that time so vividly, because you're hearing this, time to get out and you can barely see. And then sure enough, as soon as we left, that whole side of that building collapsed. And that was just a crazy moment when I think about it. And I just thank God that, I'm here today to tell the story.
Yeah, this is this is scary stuff. Can you describe a time when you had to take initiative and become the leader in situation of emergencies and go
Yeah.
against the order?
Yeah, I was. So the story, and it was a pretty famous story for a while in the industry, and it was a 2014 Arnold Brazil. I was on a flight back after I won the Arnold Brazil. I was flying back to Dallas, and while I was on that flight, the flight attendants came on the little PA system and said, if anybody's medically trained, we have a sick passenger. Can you please help us? So, here I am post victory. I'm like, man, I just want to take a nap. I want to eat. I want to enjoy myself. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to get up and go see what's going on. They need any help. So it was just me. And there was this intern doctor that was just very new in medical school at the time. And so we ended up, we got on the phone with the medical control for the airlines and went through this whole protocol, checked her out. And she was like, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. And they just said, let her try to rest, give her some water. And so that was kind of it. About an hour later, the flight attendant, I'm okay. Everything's good. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy myself, take a nap. I just ate. She goes, come running up to me and woke me up. She's like, I need your help. I need your help. And here I'm like, what's going on? So I go back to the back of the plane where this lady was, and she was unresponsive, and she was dead. She had no heart rate, not breathing. So immediately I remember grabbing her, I picked her up, and I took this lady into the back of the airplane, and I started CPR. And here we are flying over the rainforest in Brazil. And, there's no runways anywhere near. So for about 30 minutes, the closest airport was Costa Rica. And so for about 30 minutes, I was doing CPR, and it took about 15 minutes to land. But I had the whole crew. So I'm sitting there telling all the people what to do in the back and getting all the medication, doing the IV. We were doing all this stuff, and I was leading it. I was, taking charge. But I, remember there was a lot of trauma and adrenaline and everything involved in this scenario. But I did everything in my power and everything that I've been taught to save her. But she ended up not living. And it was, I believe, a lot of the people that come from South America, they try to mule drugs. And I believe she swallowed a bag of drugs, and it bag opened up, and it ended up killing her.
Man,
So
this is such a common thing.
Yeah.
Now that in Mexico. And
so that was a scenario where, I had to make a decision. I had to go ahead and take charge of the scene and the scenario and do my best to try to make something happen.
Well, there was a lot of things going against you being on the plane, and
yeah.
Not a little bit about the upgraded human mastermind. You're helping a lot of CEOs and business owners. Do you see any pattern with business owners that need help with something? Do you see man, this is the same problem over and over again?
There's a few common problems or things that are going on with the guys. A lot of time so what the upgraded human mastermind really covers is a core four that I cover, and it's faith, family, fitness, finance. So the 4 F's. So understanding faith, building, your life, and with faith comes your mindset and the way you think, and having the relationship with God. Family, your relationships at home, with your kids, your spouse, your coworkers, all that kind of stuff. Your fitness is such a huge component of life. We know this. I would say I'm an expert in the fitness field. And then to me, it's like, if you get those things right, whatever you do in your business, your finance is a portion of it, of life, is going to be fruitful. So what I see a lot of times is guys that are in business and they're just doing great in business, they're excelling, but they've really neglected their health. They've neglected their relationships at home. They're like, man, I don't spend enough time with my kids. I don't get to, my wife's not happy with me. I got a bunch of health problems. So my thing is like, how could we help upgrade these areas of their life to help them become upgraded humans?
Yeah.
To me, a lot of it does revolve around fitness. So helping people, map out their fitness and get some things right. And so that kind of leads me in when I start, helping guys at a general level. They always reach out and they want more one-on-one coaching. So I do a lot of high-level coaching for CEOs, where I do more one-on-one coaching, really dial in their blood work, their hormones, any deficiencies, any kind of, get their training right, get their nutritional right. So all these things, I really enjoy in helping people in that area. But the upgraded human is community, it's network, and then also to try to, try to instill some really good concepts into becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah, we need more people to focus on those areas right now, because the family is being attacked, faith is being attacked.
Yeah.
Obviously, finances, with economy tanking, and a lot of times the fitness part fixes so many problems, right? Once when your body gets fit, self-esteem, teaches you discipline, implement these things in business, implement those reps in business, and the fitness, starting with fitness, is a good way to cover the areas of life.
Absolutely.
So my mastermind, I call it the rich mastermind. It's very similar. It's about relationships, inheritance, character, and health. And the health include physical, mental, and spiritual health.
Yep.
But this is powerful stuff. Tell me about any mentors or books or resources that have inspired you to overcome your challenges in life. What are some of your favorite people and books that you read?
I encourage people to, I've gone through so much of life on, through my into my teens, into my 20s, kind of on my own, with that I could do anything alone. And then that's where I realized, hey, I can't get through this life without God. So that's where I really developed my relationship with God. But then I understood, where I'm at now in life. Growing up, you have coaches, you have people that guide you and show you the ways to whatever you're in, show you the skills you need and the things you need to work on, pull out, point out the weak points, et cetera. So that's where I've really, in the last probably 10 years of my life, more so probably in the last 5 years, really dug into the coaching, me getting my own mentors, hiring people to, help me with what I'm doing, that are experts, that know more than I do in certain areas. So I have several business and life mentors. Sean Whalen's a mentor of mine, good friend of mine. Keith Kraft, my pastor, he's a coach.
He's awesome.
He's a life coach of mine. Stuman's another good friend of mine that's helped me a lot in business. I have a lot of guys that I call friends that also are mentors to me, that have helped me tremendously in these areas. All through my bodybuilding career, I've had coaches that helped, guide me and make sure I'm doing things right. But that's why I encourage people to really invest in themselves. When they mean invest in themselves, sometimes it means investing in getting a coach, somebody that can help you grow in an area.
Yeah, they're so important. But starting with God, being a business partner, it's a really good way to build your foundation and just be resourceful. Resources are so important.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a time when you had to navigate conflict or disagreement within a team, or your own team or work environment? How did you approach, or between friends, how do you approach, what is your go-to resolution for conflict when you're observing conflict? How do you?
My thing is and this came with maturity in life, is I'm not a big conflict person. Like I'm not one you know, try to start a conflict. But one thing that I've realized is to not react on emotion. A lot of times we get fired up, we get emotional, and sometimes you could say things that you don't necessarily mean, or may have a sharp tongue with something and be like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have said that," or you kind of regret what you said. So my thing is, if I'm getting fired up about something, I'll kind of take a step back, or I'll just give myself a minute to kind of collect myself, cool off, and then you know what, let me process this, and then I'll go ahead and deliver what I believe is the right thing to either say or do. That's to me has been the best conflict resolution that I've had to deal with. But a lot of times we don't want to. I mean, a lot of my life I've avoided conflict, and that's it's not a great habit. But in my older years, and not necessarily understanding communication and communicating certain things, or getting ahead of it by having an open line of communication and say, hey, you know what, I'm feeling a certain way, or this really, what was done really kind of bothered me, and I just want to let you know. And not coming from a place of attacking, but a place of like love, and just say, hey, I just want to let you know where I'm at, let you know how I feel. And then usually it's the response is a lot more receptive than you feel like you're attacking them because of something. It's like I said, it's not coming out of a place of emotion, but I just want to let a different level of communication.
Yeah. Honesty is when you stop lying to others, and maturity is when you stop lying to yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
It's I noticed you mentioned maturity. Do you think maturity comes with age, or it comes with something else?
I think well, no, I'm going to say it's coming from learned experiences. It comes from experiences, but you have to learn from them. I know people that are old and still immature and haven't
Right.
figured out a lot of life. So I can't say it's always age. I say if you're willing to learn from mistakes or experiences, both positive and negative, and apply those for better things in your life, and say, hey, you know what, next time I'm going to do better, or next time I'm going to do things that way. You're going to go ahead and you're going to get better responses.
What are some of the most significant lessons for personal growth that you've learned through the years with sports and business? Like, are there some specific principles that are very practical that you want to share right now? Adversity. Do you have like go-to top three principles?
Absolutely. I think one, it's embracing resistance. I think a lot of people, and that's kind of what bodybuilding has taught me, is to embrace resistance when something's heavy or hard, or where most people are like, it gets uncomfortable. It's embracing being uncomfortable. And
Mm,
when you can do that, I think you can do anything in life, because you know what, it's the other one is choosing your hard. In life, there's everything is hard. Like being rich is hard, being poor is hard, being fat is hard, being in shape is hard, being healthy is hard, being sick is hard. Like, choose which path you want to go. And when you go that, like, I'm going to choose the path that's going to lead me to more life.
yeah, that's really good. If you can go back in your life and jump in any moment, just like in Back to the Future, you've seen that movie?
Yeah.
If you can go back to any moment in your life and you get a chance to edit the moment, or just to relive the moment one more time, but you only have one shot, where would you go in your past?
Ooh, that's a good one. One of the things that really resonated with me from one of my coaches growing up, my football coach, was he goes, you know, go out there and have no regrets. Go out there and have no regrets. And I've kind of carried that through my life. Like, whatever has happened, I don't necessarily regret it. I learn from it. I look at it as a learning process, like I said. So I can't say like, man, I'd go back, do things differently. If I was to go back in time, the one thing my wife and I always say is, we wish we could have met each other 20 years ago. And that would probably be the one thing, if I could find her 20 years ago. But I think God has laid a path out for your life, and all the things that have happened have led me to her. So that's what I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah, I've had a couple of relationships, and I surrendered to God, completely surrendered to Him, and He led me to my wife today, and I couldn't do it on my own. And
No.
I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed, and I feel like you're in the same season of your life, just experiencing love, and we have a lot in common with that. So it just you got to let him make the choice for you.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So I think it's at the right time, at the right place, because the level of maturity is perfect now,
Yeah,
and you could be the husband and the father you always
yeah,
wanted to be.
that's very
So
true.
I'm truly happy for you, brother. I'm really enjoying our conversation. Hey, what's wrong with the world today?
What's that?
What's wrong with the world today?
Oof, that's a whole nother podcast. But to me, like we've said, they've taken God out of a lot of things. I believe the foundation of faith and family has been under attack, like you said. And I think there's a lot of darkness in this world. And a lot of it is, we're being programmed from TV to social media and the things that they're getting, media puts in front of you constantly to try to program us to think a certain way or be a certain way. I think that's been the biggest impact or biggest thing that's going on that that affects the world, and there's a lot of lying, a lot of misleading, a lot of misinformation out there, and it's a shame that has to happen. That people feel like they have to lie to get a certain something, an agenda done, whatever the agenda may be. But I think there's just a lot of darkness, and I believe that we're called to be lights in this world. I believe that we're called to be truth out there, to be to influence for positivity, to show love, to when Jesus talks about loving your enemy, really the reason why he tells you to love your enemies, because your enemy will really expose a lot of things you need to work on, the faults that you may have. So to me, it's like, having more love in this world, and I wish that we could eradicate the evil of this world. I really do. I wish there was a way to do that, but we just have to continue to be the light. We have to continue to be the way.
That's good.
In a nutshell, but yeah, we can go way down. We can go to the beginning of time if you want. If you want to go biblical on this, let's go.
Specifically with America, America has changed so much in the last 4 years, just so much. And as an immigrant, I feel such a huge difference. I moved here 20 years ago from Europe, and it's been like declining. You know what I mean? Like the land of the free is no longer so free.
Correct.
What do you think? When do you think we're gonna have enough of this? Because I think people are desperate for change.
I know a lot of people are not happy. I don't know who could say they're happy with the current climate in the political climate, the tensions throughout the different communities in the United States. I mean, I think most people are fed up with it. I could tell you, I don't like the price of gas, the price of groceries, the price of living nowadays have just skyrocketed. I just think that it's like there's almost an agenda. I mean, that's not really almost. There is an agenda to eradicate the middle class. They want to create a hierarchy of. I mean, in essence, it is communism. They want to have an elite class and then everybody else to become dependent on the government. You see that more and more. So it's like 1% controls 99% of things, and I don't think. I mean, America is built on middle class. America is built on, and that's what makes America unique a lot. Because I mean, I've traveled the world. I've seen a lot of the different countries out there, and the most of the people that complain about America or have never been outside of America, have never left the United States. So it's like what you need to go to a socialist country to see how socialism truly is, and how it just doesn't work. It does not work in favor of the people. It works in favor for the people in power, not for the people of the of the community, of the people that really have to live it. So I think people that complain about America need to go to another country, go live in Africa, go live in Venezuela, go live in the Middle East somewhere, where you don't have the freedoms we have. And I think people just have lost track of how great America is. And there's a lot of corruption starting from the top down. I think a lot of the politicians are bought and paid for, and they're just puppets. And there's a lot of decision makers that we don't even know that make decisions in this world, and even for our country, and it affects us all.
And the world is watching America, waiting on America. Trust me, because the other countries, as you say, as you point out, they're not as free, and so they kind of have lost hope. So they're looking They look like the British. They would say, yeah, Americans, nobody can tell Americans what to do. Americans do whatever they want. Like the individual has the power to go and sue the big corporation and to hurt. That's not possible in any other country,
No.
So the world is looking at America right now like, all right, when are people going to stand up? How, like, their president is falling asleep.
Yeah, well, that you tell you right there. It's weak leadership. We have weak leadership, and there's a lot of weak men in our country and in this world. They need to stand up, and they've tried to demasculinize men over the last 4 years heavily. The attack on men and toxic masculinity and all that. Like, no, men need to be men. Men need to be the head of their families. Men need to go ahead and the men are the ones that truly like built this country. You look at all of the hard labor jobs, like, it's the backs of men that have built this, and men need to stand up and be strong for our country, for our families, for our future. And poor leadership, weak men, that's probably the core of what it is, like you said. But what makes America so great is our Constitution. It's our Second Amendment is probably the greatest thing, because without our Second Amendment, we'd be like every other country. The government would just take over, and they could make whatever rules or tyrannical rules they want to make. But having the Second Amendment allows us to live free and to give us an edge or a chance when there's crazy things going on in this world.
What's your prediction if things keep going the same way, or do you think something's going to change inevitably?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, it can go a lot. It can go a lot of different directions. It really can.
What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years?
I have my hopes. I mean, I hope we get a change in leadership in the next year. I hope we have, I hope wars are avoided, and I hope there's peace created. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, when you start thinking of unplugging from the matrix and looking at things from a different view, you're like, there's war is very profitable for the hires in this world, the higher ups in this world, the people that run a lot of corporations, all this stuff. War is profitable, peace is not. So I just wish that there was a way that we could come to a common agreement and peace in everything. I mean, that's my hopes. Now, I mean, so much really dictates in probably the next month or two, really what ends up happening. Does World War III happen, or is there an agreement and peace happen? I think a lot of that's to come in the next month or two.
Well, who will bring the peace? Sleepy Joe?
Exactly. They're already stirring the pot. They've already, lit the threw gas on the fire. So
he's on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. It would have to be us. But do I think that? I mean, it's going to have to be. It always is us. But I don't think we have the right leadership to make that call. Right.
The whole world is waiting on America to step in.
They are.
So, if you were in charge, what would you do?
I would go in and create. I would try to create peace within, between both sides that are fighting right now, the Israeli and the Palestinian. I would try to have some sit down, come to some agreements. I mean, there was some peace, and then it was stoked again. And I think any terroristic organization needs to be eradicated. That's just straight from the devil. They go back to Cain and Abel bloodlines. You go back to, that's how far back this kind of goes. But to me, there was Christians and Muslims, and they've been living in peace in Palestine and in Syria and in Israel for a long time. I believe the people that want war and that are in this power grab for land and for all this kind of stuff, like they want war. They're going to stoke it. They're going to push it. So, I mean, if I was in power, I would go in and just say, we need to have a ceasefire. We need to figure this out. We need to come to an agreement on things, and let's hear both sides and let's figure this out. That's what I would do.
What about Russia and Ukraine? Because nobody is talking about it anymore. Kind of like we shifted to Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, of course. And whatever the media wants to perpetuate its story or its propaganda, it's going to put. To me, if the media pushes one side on something, there's always two sides to the story. So there's three sides, we can even say. But to me, when they push just one side and we have to do this, like, I want to know all the information before I make a uneducated decision. I want to make an educated decision based on what I know, and we're not fed all the information. So we're kind of stuck in the blind saying, well, I guess I'll take this side or this side. I don't agree with taking any sides. I believe my heart goes out to all the innocent people that are involved in this. You know, it's, you got a bunch of power hungry, ego driven, political leaders in this world that are trying to one up each other and do things, and that it's affecting everybody. It's affecting all the small people. They don't care, a casualty of war or whatever. They're like, oh, some people died, big deal. But that plays on the emotions of everybody else. That plays on emotions of Americans. So I feel bad for the Ukrainian people, but there's both sides to that story. I think the leader in Ukraine, I'm not a fan of him. I think he's in bed with the old Sleepy Joe, and the laundering of money they're doing, and there's a lot of corruption over there. But I think the media has demonized Putin, and I'm not with that either. So I think he's done some good things too.
I think that the people kind of figured it out, and they stopped paying attention to it.
Correct.
Kind of died.
Correct.
And they needed a new war to shift their attention, because like BS, Ukraine, whatever is going on, it's like they're laundering money, and we needed a new war for us to get our attention. And the most convenient is a war that's been going on for 50, 60 years, probably 100 years.
Yep.
So they shifted our attention to that, because, like you said, war is what makes them money. Unfortunately, for casualties, that's how I am. I'm not on either side. I just care about the people that pay the price, people that don't even see it. Well, who do you think is the right leader for us, the next leader?
I mean, regardless of what people, the feelings, I'm not a big feelings guy. I like to look at fact. I like to look at policy and principle. I believe that, you look at what Trump did in 4 years, and I'm not looking at him like the saving grace and the almighty like some people do. I'm just saying, in 4 years he was in office, there was no war. I think our economy was the strongest it's been in a long time. Yes, there was a lot of political blowback with the different riots and the stuff they were trying to push with the different agendas of the Black Lives Matter and all these different movements and stuff. But to me, those were all just psyop and just try to confuse people and create disruption in everyday life. But to me, I think he did great during his time. So to me, if somebody could create some peace in this war that could bring some authority back to the United States and have a powerful voice, he did it. So that would probably be based on what is available. Like, there's some other people I would probably like to see in that position that aren't necessarily in politics, that are amazing human beings. I think somebody like Patrick Bet-David should probably run for president. I think that guy is brilliant. I mean, he sees things from all sides. He's brilliant. So I think we need to get rid of these old politicians, guys that are 80, 85 years old, that could that can't really complete a sentence very well, could barely walk upstairs. Like, there's no reason. We need to have some young blood in there, some that's got a good pulse on what's going on in this world and what the the younger generations going through. Or I think that's direction and leadership we need. But somebody strong and that willing to stand up for some very solid principles and that can't be bought.
Yeah, the problem with Patrick Bet-David is he was born in Iran, so the law is you gotta be born here. Only Obama.
Exactly.
Patrick has been open with that, so it's too late to pull that one.
Yeah.
One of the guys that I see, I mean, I also think that Trump has the capacity to negotiate and to has the knowledge of international deals and kind of can see it. He can see it like one of us. He sounds like one of us. Hey guys, look what these guys have been doing for the past years.
Yeah. It's not a staged statement. It's something that's from his heart, or like, he's riled up to say it. He's going to say it.
Yeah, and at the same time, the way he responds about the tax law and stuff, how he takes advantage of it, and because of that, so many smaller businesses now are taking advantage of that too as well.
Yeah.
So they operate as big companies. So I think he was good for business. When he stepped into office, my business was fairly new, and a lot of things he removed a lot of bureaucratic BS and
Yeah.
just really stepped into that small business owner and helped the economy thrive from the foundation, from the way the country is built. And he really bleeds about entrepreneurs because he really cares about entrepreneurs and inspires people to be one. So I'm a fan of him. I also like this new guy, Vivek, but
Yeah.
I don't think he's got enough. He's got enough votes. He's got a
No.
very good perspective on things.
He does. He does. Almost a little bit too staged, almost a little bit too like scripted, if that makes sense. Like it's almost too good, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um, but no, I would
People
agree with you.
compare him because Obama had like great speech and all that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like immigrants, Latinos, Afro Americans, they all voted for Obama because that's what you do. You vote for Democrats, but
Yeah.
they're all disappointed now with the Democratic Party. I mean, I don't care who you support. Nobody likes these gas prices. Nobody likes this restaurant prices, and going to the restaurant now, it's like a couple $100 just for two people.
You go to the grocery store, you get a box of Kleenex, a couple of vegetables, you know, and it's 200 or it's $100. You're like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
I got 2 bags of groceries. I'm walking out $100. It's crazy.
Especially if you want to eat real food, it's really expensive.
Yes.
So we're desperate for change. I think it's going on. It's like a global thing. The people against the government. So instead of picking sides, we need to pick the side of the people, and the enemy is the government.
Absolutely. That's what I say it all the time. I said, you know, it's the enemy is all about division. The Bible, or, you know, the devil wants to go ahead and like you said, he's going to attack, he's going to steal, he's going to divide. He wants division. So what do? You create a left and right. You create a Republican and Democrat. You create this divisiveness. We're fighting amongst ourselves, and we should come together as one and figure out what's best for our country and move that needle forward and not be so emotionally driven based on what you're hearing, which probably isn't even true.
Yeah. Well, they're doing everything possible to stop Trump, which is a sign that he's got something.
Right. He exactly.
So, how do you think that's going to play out? Do you think he's going to survive this and run, or?
I think so. I mean, you're going to have a lot of angry people if something happens where he can't. So, I mean, they're kind of creating a banana republic where they have 2 sets of rules. You got one set of rules for us and then one set of rules for them. So what do you know, it's just, there's some
Yeah.
craziness going on.
Well, the new Speaker of the House is a good Christian guy. That's kind of hopeful.
It is. Now we got to see some action.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk with all these guys, but no action. So let's see some action.
Yeah, yeah. Who's your second choice if for some reason something is to
With president option?
Yeah. I interviewed Ray Kashkar. You know Ray? He's like a Navy SEAL,
Yeah.
and he's a badass. He was like, I don't care if it's a man or woman. I want somebody with balls.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I like that for sure. You know what? Again, I'm really for who's ever gonna put America first. Like that was Trump's thing, America first. And you know, it's almost like taking care of yourself first before you start taking care of other people. I mean, if you're on an airplane and it's going down, they're gonna say put your oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. So that's
Yeah.
what we need to do because our plane's going down right now.
I know. The border is wide open.
That's crazy.
And it's like everything is going down. So who will be your second choice?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to say. I mean, initially I was a fan of DeSantis, but he hasn't impressed me much with it lately.
Something had a good momentum, and then
Yeah. So we'll see let's see what it boils down to at the end coming up, and I'll have to make the best choice possible.
Yeah. Well, in closing, tell me what are some words of encouragement, something that our viewers can take from Steve and remember for the rest of their life.
I think this is something I've been talking about more and more, but it's being present in every day. I said, if you're trying to think of what your purpose is and you start thinking of, what you want to do and your calling, But what if your sole purpose was to be present today, in today, and live for today? Because, tomorrow's not promised, and it's not to be, a dark or cynical with things, but just like being real that tomorrow is not promised. So we need to live every day to the fullest and be intentional with everything that we do. That includes loving the people that are, you do life with. And to me, anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. So I want to be all in on life. And that's been my motto, and it's been working.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for this conversation. It was definitely a great pleasure for me to have you on our podcast.
Likewise.
How you do anything, how you do everything.
That's right.
And everything worth doing is worth overdoing. What a great way to end this.
There you go.
Thank you, brother. And again, best wishes for your baby. I'll be praying for you guys for everything to go smooth. And this is going to be such a huge blessing for you.
Thank you, Velko.
Steve the fifth.
That's right. He's going to be the fourth.
That's so awesome. God bless you, brother.
Thank you so much.